Hello everyone, and welcome to the 8th and final installment of the Super Maslow series. Right now we are looking at getting our first part cut after all of these upgrades to the machine. In the time that's elapsed since the last episode, I've gotten everything assembled and got the chains all routed, as you can see. And right now I'm just doing everything I need to do to get this cut set up. After securing my workpiece to the spoil board with my 18 gauge brad nailer, I'm just moving the sled over to the origin point. That way I can set my XY home. In this extreme position here, the sled is actually tipping on the edge of the sheet, so I'm just going to attach a small outrigger piece that's the same thickness as what I'm cutting to help support it. After what has been far too long of inactivity, seeing the meticulous Z-axis in action on my machine is just such a breath of fresh air. It's good so far to see that all of the movements have been very smooth and controlled as opposed to the stock Z-axis. Right now the machine's just working on cutting a couple of dados, and then it will move on to cutting other profiles for what we're cutting today, which is actually just a small toothbrush holder for my bathroom. The increased stability in the Z-axis is allowing the machine to cut dados more smoothly, which is awesome. And it's also allowing me to do a little bit more complex entry maneuvers into the plywood, rather than just plunging straight in. So here you can see there's a little bit of a zigzag going on until it pierces through all the way down to the spoil board. So from here it's just going to open up this pocket to make the back axis hole for the whole assembly. So I'm just going to let the music play here, and we'll regroup when it's time to talk about the chain system. So while that's cutting, let's take a moment and talk about the chain drive system that I've devised. So as you can see from our previous illustrations, I have my XY motor configuration here with the idler sprocket set in the middle, and I'm underslinging the outfeed of the chain, and I'm also securing the slack side there on the bracket itself. The slack sides of the chain feed back out over the top beam itself and ride in these little 3D printed carriers to keep anything from getting hung up in the unistrut channels themselves. The slack side is tensioned by some aircraft cable that runs down behind the machine to some counterweights, which I'll show in a minute. The carriers that I put on the unistrut are especially important where this aircraft cable might snag in the middle here. Then using a couple of pulleys, I redirect the aircraft cable down the back of the machine where it's attached to a counterweight that helps kind of just tension the whole assembly. And this is going to be showing that same counterweight from a different angle just to illustrate where they sit in space. And you can see that they're actually moving up and down as the machine is cutting right now. Okay, so at this point the Maslow is almost done with what it's working on, so let's let it just finish up its last couple of cuts, and then we'll meet back up to remove the parts from the machine. With my parts cut, I'm now just going to remove everything. What I'm doing is I'm just taking a chisel to all of my tabs and breaking them off so that the pieces come out loose. I actually already removed a couple of pieces because the tabs weren't holding up very well during cutting, so it was safer to just pause the machine and remove them really quickly. There are a couple of schools of thought when it comes to breaking tabs off and getting your parts out. I find that a sharp chisel works just as fast, if not faster, than something like a multi-tool. After removing all of my parts, I'm now just going to take them to my little handheld belt sander. In this case, I just clamped it in the vise really quick to make it easier to work on everything. The goal here is to sand down the little bits of the tabs that remain after I chiseled them. Once that's done, I'm just going to hit the edges really quickly and break off any of the fuzzies from the actual cutting process. With everything now cleaned up and I've test fitted all the components, I'm just going to take some tung oil and give everything a quick coating just to get the grain to really pop on them. With finishing done, the last step is to just assemble all the components, glue them up, and let it sit overnight. These in-progress shots show how all the little dados that the Maslow cut make sure that all the parts fit together in a nice, neat little way to make the final box. And at the end is a simple but effective little organizer for the bathroom. I hope everybody enjoyed watching the series of me modifying my Maslow into its current form. With any luck, this will prove helpful to anybody else undergoing the task of building up their own Maslow from scratch. Any activity on this video or any others in this series go a long way towards making this more visible for more people on YouTube, so feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. So everyone, get out there and make some cool things with your machine.